Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Have you ever attended an event and the host is still setting up as the guests are arriving? I most certainly have. And no shade to them because I don't know what was happening behind the scenes, which led to them setting up as the guests are arriving. So I extend grace and mercy to everyone because I get to have it myself. Today, we're going to talk about how to solve an event planning nightmare like a pro. And we're talking about insufficient setup and breakdown time. My name is Melody Dixon, CEO and founder of Pro Event Planners, curators of eco focused events. I plan events for clients who are steeped in all things sustainability. It's in their life. They save energy, they reduce waste, they manage water. It's also in their business. They manage wasting of money, wasting of paper, all of that. But I also support people who have no idea about sustainability. They just know that the way that they've been going, they need to make a change, but they're not sure where to start. So I hold their hands and we take tiny eco focused steps that over time make a big impact on just their overall knowledge and their finances in their business and their life and loves on the planet a whole lot. So, what is sustainability? It is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. How I like to explain it is that God is an expansive energy being, created the universe, created flowers, created many types of butterflies. There's so much intention and creativity everywhere you look in the world. As we are from God, we also have that inherent ability to be creative. We like to make art, invent things, start businesses, start a garden, uh, just do jewelry. Like my daughter, she made these bracelets for me. Uh, one says "Mom," the other says "Marley." That's for a dog that passed, and the other says "Grandma" for my mom that passed. And on her own, she created these designs. She knows that I am a child of the earth. I love all things gardening and barefoot, and I like the Rastafarian colors. So she did the red, green, and gold for me. Marley was a brown colored dog, so she did something along that color scheme. And my mom loved purple, so she did different shades of purple. That's creativity, and that's a child. I think she was 10 when she did it. She's now 11. So we all have that inherent ability to be creative. And as such, we get to live and do all of that, but with an intentionality that we're going to manage the resources we're currently using and also save some resources or maybe find ways to have it be renewable so that our kids and our kids' kids and people 10 generations deep will have access to the same resources so they too can be expansive and creative and make more bracelets, you know? Now, there are three pillars of sustainability. The first one, and it's not in any particular order, it's just listed out, the environment. We get to reduce, reuse, and recycle. Reduce the consumption because we are a world that consumes so much, so much. And where does it go when we're tired of the thing that we just consumed? To landfills. Pillars help us to be intentional with those resources. So if we buy something that we don't want anymore or can't use anymore, we get to give it away. Reuse it, have somebody else use it for something else. We get to recycle things like paper and cans and glasses. They can have a second life. And I like to add a fourth option, and that's upcycling. We can convert those cans and bottles and papers into different things. Like if you have cardboard boxes, you can shred it up and soak it and create your own seeded paper for letters or for art, or invitations, handmade crafted cards and invitations, so that when your guests are done with the cards or done with the invitations, they can plant it in their garden and grow flowers or vegetables. There's so many ways that we can reuse and reduce and recycle and upcycle. We get to be curious about that. Today's nightmare is insufficient setup and breakdown time. And I have had so much experience with that. I've been in the events hospitality field now for about a little over 30 years, and doing I started my business in 2001. And if you go to a venue, there's always setup and there's always breakdown. Now, I can do it myself, or I can pay vendors and other people to do it as a part of their, like, the reason why I hire them. One of the challenges that event planners face is the setup and breakdown time of their events. Setup and breakdown time can be challenging, as it can involve a lot of coordination and logistics and labor, and it can affect the availability and accessibility and safety of the event space if you don't have enough time. What I like to do with my setup time is to have order as far as what vendors arrive first. Because when you rent a space, you rent it for a time. Some venues are generous. They'll give you the rental for the day. And so you can have your setup time whenever, your breakdown time whenever, but you have a time to enter the building and a time to leave the building. And what you do with the hours in between that is all up to you. There are some venues who say, well, you have a 4-hour window of setup time, and you can be in the venue until this particular time. And actually, they can It's coming. Okay, here we are. All right. So there are some venues who give you a 4-hour setup breakdown window. You can decide to do 2-hour setup, 2 hours breakdown, or 3-hour setup and 1-hour breakdown. And I would recommend putting more hours available for the setup time, because this is where you're putting the little design details in place, and those things take time. You want to make sure when the bride comes in, she sees a picture of her grandmother at a particular seat next to the grandmother's favorite flowers, or little details that, the pin spot lighting over the centerpiece. You have to center the table. Well, you get the lights up, center the table under the lights, and make sure that the centerpiece is dead center. So, it takes time. At the end of the event, it's just like a pull and grab, dump it in garbage bags, break things down, pack it up in the crates, and go. So less hours on the breakdown time is absolutely normal. I'm going to share with you, I think I have seven tips on getting the enough setup and breakdown time and have it flow, so that you're not rushing. Because when you rush, you're not careful. And maybe you'll rush to open a banquet table and not realize that you didn't click it into place. And so when you put all the settings on the top and something happens, like a guest sits down and their leg bounces the table, the whole thing can come crashing down. Not only will the guests get hurt, but things will get broken, and then the event will be disrupted, and there could be issues after that. So for sure, we want to get enough time to set up the right way that's safe. So tip number 1, Based on the decor and AV needs, discuss with the vendors how much time they will need to set up. So let's say you found the venue, you haven't booked them yet, but you're also looking at the other elements of the event. The client wants a stage, and the stage needs to have lighting above and moving lights and spotlights. You want to find out from the AV team and the staging company how much time they will need to set up. Sometimes that's something that needs to be done the day before because it's so involved and they can't have other people around moving, and it's dangerous. They're up on ladders and have cranes and all kinds of things to make the staging happen. So you want to check in with all the vendors. The flooring people, the same thing. Great. Once you have that amount of time, then you can say to the venue, I am going to need access to the venue the day before to set up the staging and the lighting. Or if the event starts at 7 p.m., I'm going to need access to the building at like 8 in the morning or 12 in the afternoon. Whatever it is, you get that time together and then you say to the venue, with the setup time and the time for the event and what time we'll need for the breakdown, because you'll also talk to your vendors about that. I'm going to need a good 10 hours in the building. What is that going to cost? So you know upfront how much you're paying and how much time you need. Tip number 2, disclose the amount of time you will need for setup, the event program, and breakdown so the venue can quote you on the actual time you need. I kind of blended 1 and 2 together with that. So number 3. So let me just recap really quick. Number 1, based on the decor and AV needs, discuss with the vendors how much time you'll need to set up. Number 2, disclose the amount of time you will need to set up, the event program time frame, and the breakdown so that the venue can quote you on the actual time you need. Number 3, make sure the venue agreement reflects that need and give you a cost for additional time. So don't go with vague quotes. Go with specifics. I need access to the building the day before the event from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. and then access the morning of the event from 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. at night. What is that going to cost? That time frame and dates must be in the contract. Also, should something happen where you need to have additional time, let's say most brides are late. It's just most brides are late. And you may need to get some extra time on the back end so that all the things may, good morning, Crystal. All the things may flow still. We're talking about today's event nightmare is not having enough setup and breakdown time. And number 1 was based on the decor and AV needs, discuss with the vendors how much time they will need for setup. And number 2 was disclose the amount of time you will need for setup, the event program, and can quote you on exactly that time frame that you actually need. And number 3 was make sure that that's in the contract. So the example I was giving was if it was a corporate event and there needs to be staging and lighting and flooring done, or even a wedding, and the staging people needs to come the day before, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. the day before, and the morning of the event, the setup staff for that day needs to be there 8 a.m. and then the whole event ends at 10 p.m. That gets to be in the contract. But also, if the client needs additional time. So each additional hour is what? That's what we want to see in the contract. So if the bride is late, which is not uncommon, and we need to extend the time to get all the things in, I mean, that's a trickle down effect actually. So if the bride is late, we may have to pay the vendors to stay longer and also pay the venue to stay longer. But as long as I check in with the bride or the company and say, this is what is happening. Do you want to stay on schedule or do you want to extend the time? And because whoever, whatever was running late and things aren't, the program isn't flowing the way it was designed, what do you want to remove from the program to have things continue, or what do you want to cut short? So that's a whole conversation, but we get to know how much money it's going to cost to stay each additional hour in the in the venue. All right, so Crystal on Instagram says, overtime is always a sensitive issue. And for Lady of Harp, Crystal, she is an amazing harpist. And she says, I tried to tackle that prior to the contract being finalized. It is better to book for 2 hours versus 1 hour because I don't want to have to stop as you are walking down the aisle. Got it. People have been frustrated due to late brides, grooms, mothers of the bride. It's hard. Yeah, and it's a part of the industry. So I always communicate often and communicate clearly. If you are late, you get to let me know. Do you want to extend the time of the vendors? And if you do, these are the vendors that will be affected: the DJ, the harpist, event staff. If they have to stay later, it all decide. And then from there, we know what we need to do. Do we need to cut something from the program so we can continue as normal? Or do we get to go later? All right, Crystal says, again, this is better handled with the event planner involved because I can approach her with the issue. Absolutely. Part of being an event planner is I'm like the liaison between the vendors and the client, and the venue and the client, and the venue and the vendors. I'm liaison all around. And the vendors, because I have a relationship with them, they feel comfortable speaking with me because, first of all, I'm the one who's hiring them, and I let them know I am their point of contact because I protect my clients from having so many vendors talking to them and problems, because that's the reason why they hire me, to manage all of that for them so that they can focus on having their event. Crystal says, we don't approach a bride with a problem the day of the event, the planner. Absolutely. Absolutely. The planner is that go-between person. All right, let's see. Welcome, Mary Campa 30. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're talking about how to solve event planning nightmares like a pro. I do a topic every day, and this particular topic is managing the setup and breakdown time. Sometimes there's just not enough because of poor planning. And if you have your events and you don't use an event planner, you won't know that. You'll just go with what well, not you particularly, but some people will just go with what the venue says, and then they're struggling. Not enough setup time, not enough breakdown time. Guests are arriving and they're still adding last minute touches to the decor. So we don't want any of that in the event. So the tip number 3 was make sure the venue agreement reflects the total amount of time that you need, whether you need time the day before or the day of. Make sure it's in the agreement, and also what is the cost for additional time should something happen. there's no flawless event. When you're dealing with people, things happen. Somebody gets sick, somebody has a flat tire. Um, my last wedding, everything was set up and ready. We're waiting for the bride, waiting for the bride. She was an hour late. Hour late. And when she came, she, I guess it sweat and her hair was like flattened down and she was nervous and she started to hyperventilate. We had to delay the wedding. Her, calm her down, put her to sit down, talk to her, give her water. And her father was there holding her hand and rubbing it until she was able to calm down and breathe normally. That was like an hour and a half late. So as a result, everything got delayed. But it is what it is. You at some point during the event, you just have to go with the flow and hope that you've prepared enough so when these little hiccups happen, you'll have the wherewithal to be present for that and focus on that. Because she needed, I don't know if it was jitters or second thoughts or just stress, but she was hyperventilating, like, should I call an ambulance kind of hyperventilating. So you just got to prepare, and that's what event planners do. They are prepared. All right, so tip number four, we're going to create an itinerary and share and review with the vendors and emphasizing the importance of timing. Setup day, well, the whole event day is like a symphony. There's different people who come in at different times, and the event planner is like the maestro. Crystal says, God bless the timeline from the planner. Absolutely. I mean, if it's a corporate event, the timeline can start from the day before when the staging people and the lighting people are doing their part, and flooring people, depending on the venue, they're doing their part. And then the event furniture people when they come, and then the linen people, and then the centerpiece, and then kitchen, and then event staffing, and then the DJ, and it's all in line with who comes first, who comes second, who comes third. Each vendor at my events get a copy of the itinerary, and I make sure it's finalized before I even send it out. And I do it I create like an event WhatsApp group, or I text people. That way, instead of having things printed and delivered or emailed, it's on their phone, because everybody always has their phone and they're looking on the phone. So I make sure they get the most current, clear, and concise itinerary. And when I send it to each person, I review it with them and make sure they don't have any additional questions. All right. Next, number 5. After setup, pack and store containers and equipment safely with easy access to them for breakdown. Have the vendors make sure they pack everything away out of the sight of the guests and in a safe place, so that one, they can find it when they arrive and nothing doesn't walk away. And it's safe, and aesthetically, you're not seeing crates and things and boxes anywhere in the event. Number 6, each vendor must pack their own equipment with speed and safety to avoid overtime and extra fees. Because if vendors are looking for crates and looking for boxes and looking for cords and things, that's going to take up extra time. And then we're going to pass the time that we should vacate the building, and that's going to be extra cost. If things are packed away safely, they can fall and scratch the paint or break something, and then that's an extra cost, which I for sure will charge the vendor for that. Number 7, clean and restore the venue to its original state, disposing of waste responsibly. So well, I used to do balloons. I used to do balloon garlands and things like that. I don't anymore because they're bad for the environment, and I didn't know just how bad. And I also know that biodegradable balloons aren't really biodegradable, but that's for another time. So I don't. But when I used to, and the staff was breaking it, they would pop the balloons and the confetti would go everywhere. And we would have to spend the time to clear that up and dispose of it responsibly. Food, all the invitations, not invitations, programs and menu cards and flowers if they're not taken, what to do with them, and paper things and noisemakers, all those things get to be disposed of properly. Crystal says balloons are so popular. I look forward to that topic. I don't do balloons anymore, but I have found an alternative, and I send out a newsletter just about once a month. And in I think my first newsletter, I call it Restyled. That's the section of the newsletter. I have a conventional decor item, and then I have the eco-focused option. So I will definitely rehash that maybe next week. All right. So those are my 7 tips on how to set up and break down so you can get enough time on the front and back end if you need. Now, of course, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of logistics. You get to hire it done. Don't be bothered with all of that. Hire an event planner to take care of all of that for you. In the link in the description, my website that goes to my pro event package. Pro means this is a professionally coordinated event. It's hire it done from start to finish. So after I sit with you and I talk with you about the type of event, whether it's a wedding or a corporate event, what you want to see, how big and how grand and who you want to impress, and the elements you want to see, I get the budget number, I take it and hit the ground running and make sure it's logistically sound from setup to breakdown. If you have any questions about event planning tips, setup and breakdown, or want to learn more about my package, or if you look at the package and you're not really sure if it's for you and you want something custom, I'd be happy to support you on that. My name is Melody Dixon, CEO and founder of Pro Event Planners, curators of eco-focused events. My email address is info@myproeventplanners. All right, let's see. Crystal says, emphasize the pro. How many times have I been told that a planner is involved only to find out it is a friend of the bride that is in over her head? Wow. Welcome 876 Mags. Thanks for joining. Today we were talking about how to solve event planning nightmares like a pro. And today's nightmare was setup and breakdown. And Crystal, who's on the live on Instagram, says she's been told that the planner is involved and it's just a friend of the bride. Yeah, yes. I have experienced what that can look like. And people will have well-meaning family and friends who want to support them. They know that, yes, hiring an event planner is an initial cost because it's a job. You're using somebody's time and their experience to create a wonderful, memorable event and logistically sound event for you. So absolutely it will cost. It's a business. But these well-meaning friends and family, they say, I have YouTube. I can totally plan a wedding. I can totally do a corporate event. It's my friend's business. So let me just, support them. That way they don't have to pay for the service and save the money. What happens is they don't have the experience, and what comes with experience are best practices. And a best practice is if you've been through something and you've created a solution for that particular problem. So now that experience goes in your toolbox. So if something happens, you can say, yep, I remember the time in that wedding where something happened, or that corporate event where something happened and I did this thing and it worked out well and the client was happy. Your friends and neighbors and family, they don't have that experience. They also don't have the formal training to know what legally is the right thing, what is logistically sound to keep the guest safe. They don't understand the ROI of each event. And even a wedding has an ROI. It's two families coming together to celebrate the special union and blend together. What does that mean? Whoever is paying wants to be presented in a certain light. The bride and groom wants to share their love, and family and the energies are now going to commingle. And so it's trying to create a family unit, a positive, memorable experience. And if at the end of the event, people are exchanging numbers and getting together more often, that's your return on the investment. They're also invested in seeing the couple live a happy married life, and they're supportive and encouraging. If it's a corporate event, there's so many ways to discern what your ROI is. You want to grow your email list. You want to launch your brand. You want to launch your product. You want to generate revenue. You want to get investors. You want to do a grand opening. So only a professional event planner can understand the need of the client and how the event will support that. Because I like to say events are growth enablers, whether it's you're growing your social life, if you're new to a neighborhood, you're having a housewarming party and you invite the neighbors to get to know them, or you're having a conference and you're inviting people from your industry and you want to train, you want to learn, you want to partner, you want to connect, you want to sell your things, or just grow in the industry. Even if you're a politician, you want to get people to vote for you. You have events, you have cocktail parties, you have fundraisers. That way you get to get connected with your constituents and build relationships, get donations, get funding, all of that. And that's how you do it, is through events. And you get to do so in a logistically sound and safe way. And that's by hiring a professional, not your neighbor and your friends. All right, let's see what Instagram's saying. Crystal says they can't answer any questions or provide me with. A planner approaches me with all of this and smiles. Absolutely. Planners are like ducks. They're paddling and they're managing and they're communicating, but their face is like serene and zen. It's all a part of it. I absolutely love it and thrive on it. And as such, I give information freely to anyone who's interested in having a good event, a beautiful event, a logistically sound event. Let's connect. My name is Melody Dixon, CEO and founder of Pro Event Planners, curators of eco-focused events. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will be back tomorrow. We're going to tackle another event planning nightmare. If you have any questions at all, DM or email me at info@myproeventplanners.com. All right. All right. So let's see now. Mary Campa 30, Crystal Lady of Harp, 876 Mags, thanks for joining me today. If you know anyone who needs an event planner, please refer me. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you tomorrow. All right, YouTube, thank you so much for joining me. I will see you tomorrow.